Welcome back, guys, to lecture number 10. Today we will talk about the project communications and management. The content of the lecture is plan communication management, manage communications, and control communications. I think today's lecture will be very short, and we will try to finish it in fast time. So, project communications management. Project communications management includes the processes that are required to ensure timely and appropriate planning, collection, creation, distribution, storage, retrieval, management, control, monitoring, and ultimate disposition of project information. Project managers spend most of their time communicating with team members and other project stakeholders, whether they are internal at all organizational levels or external to the organization. Effective communication creates a bridge between diverse stakeholders who may have different cultural and organizational backgrounds, different levels of expertise, and different perspectives and interests, which impact or have an influence upon the project execution or outcome. The communication activities involved in this process may often have many potential dimensions and that need to be considered, including, but not limited to, internal, within the project, and external, customer, vendors, other project organizations, and the public. Formal, reports, minutes, briefings, and informal, emails, memes, ad hoc discussions, vertical, up and down the organization, and horizontal, with the peers. Official, newsletters, annual report, and unofficial, off the record communications. Written and oral, and verbal, voice inflections, and nonverbal, body language. Most communication skills are common for both general management and project management, such as, but not limited to, listening actively and effectively, questioning and probing ideas and situations to ensure better understanding, education to increase teams' knowledge so that they can be more effective, fact-finding to identify or confirm information, setting and managing expectation, persuading a person, a team, or an organization to perform an action, motivating to provide encouragement or reassurance, coaching to improve performance and achieve desired results, negotiating to achieve mutually acceptable agreements between parties, resolving conflict to prevent disruptive impact, summarizing, recapping, and identifying the next steps. Project communication management overview. Plan communication management, and in input we have project management plan, stakeholders register, enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets. In tool and techniques, communications requirements analysis, communication technology, communication models, communication methods, and meetings. In outputs, communication management plan, project documents updates. Manage communications. In input, communication management plan, work performance report, enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets. In tool and techniques, communication technology, communication models, communication methods, information management systems, performance reporting. In outputs, project communications, project management plan updates, project document updates, and organizational process assets updates. Control communications. In input, project management plan, project communications, issue log, work performance data, organizational process assets. In tool and techniques, information management system, expert judgment meetings. In output, work performance, key information, change requests, project management plan updates, project documentation, documents updates, organizational process assets updates. Plan communication management is the process of developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communication based on the stakeholders' information needs and the requirements and available organizational assets. The key benefit of this process is that it identifies and documents the approach to communicate most effectively and efficiently with stakeholders. How we said here, we have inputs, tool and techniques, and outputs. Here is a workflow of plan communication management. Planning the project communication is important to ultimate success of any project. Inadequate communication planning may lead to problems such as a delay in a message delivery, communication of information to the wrong audience, or insufficient communication to the stakeholders, and misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the message communicated. On most project communication planning is performed very early, such as during project management plan development. This allows appropriate resources, such as the time and budget, to be allocated to communication activities. Effective communication means that the information is provided in the right format, at the right time, to the right audience, and with the right impact. Efficient communication means providing only the information that is needed. While all projects share the need communicate project information, the information needs and methods of distribution may vary widely. In addition, the methods of storage, retrieval, and ultimate disposition of the project information need to be considered and appropriately documented during this process. Important considerations that may need to be taken into account include, but are not limited to, who needs what information and who is authorized to access that information, when they will need the information, where the information should be stored, what format the information should be stored in, how the information can be retrieved, whether time zone, language barriers, and cross-cultural consideration need to be taken into account. The result of the plan communication management process should be reviewed regularly throughout the project and revised as needed to ensure continued applicability. The project management plan provides information on how the project will be executed, monitored, controlled, and closed. The stakeholder register provides the information needed to plan communication with the project stakeholder. The plan communication management process is tightly linked with the enterprise environmental factors, since the structure of an organization will have a major effect on the project's communication requirements. All enterprise environmental factors, see previous lecture, are used as inputs for this process, since communication needs to be updated to the project environment. All organizational process assets, also see previous lecture, are used as an input to the plan communication management process. Of these lessons learned and historical information are of particular importance because they can provide insights on both the decisions taken regarding communications issues and the results of those decisions in the previous similar projects. This can be used as a guiding information to plan the communication activities for the current project. Communication requirement analysis. The analysis of the communication required determines the information needs of the project stakeholders. These requirements are defined by combining the type and format of the information needed with an analysis of value of that information. Project resources should be expended only on communicating information that contributes to the success of the project or where a lack of communication can lead to a failure. The project manager should also consider the number of potential communication channels or paths as an indicator of the complexity of a project's communications. The total number of potential communication channels is n in parentheses n minus 1 and divided by 2, where n represents the number of stakeholders. Here is an example. Communication technology. The methods used to transfer information among the project stakeholders may vary significantly. For example, a project team may use the techniques from a brief conversation to extended meetings, or from a simple written documents to extensive materials, which are accessible online as a method of communication. Factors that can affect the choice of the communication technology include urgency of the need for information, availability of the technology, easy to use project environment, sensitive and confidentiality of the information. Communication methods. Communication models. The communication models used to facilitate communication and the exchange of the information may vary from a project to project and also within different stages of the same project. A basic communication model consists of two parties, defined as a sender and receiver. Medium is the technology medium and includes a mode of the communication, while noise includes any interference or barriers that might compromise the delivery of the message. The sequence of steps in a basic communication model is encode, transmit message, decode, acknowledge, feedback, or response. Here is encode and going through to decode. And decode going with a feedback message from a encode. The component of the basic communication model need to be considered when project communication are discussed. As a part of the communication process, the sender is responsible for the transmission of the message, ensuring the information being communicated is clear and complete, and confirming the communication is correctly understood. Communication methods. There are several communication methods that are used to share information among the project stakeholders. These methods are broadly classified as follows: interactive communication, push communication, pull communications. The choice of the communication methods are used for a project may need to be discussed and agreed upon by the project stakeholders based on the communication requirements, cost and time constraints, and familiarity and availability of the required tools and resources that may be applicable to the communications process. Meetings. The plan communications management process requires discussion and dialogue with the project team to determine the most appropriate way to update and communicate project information and to respond to requests from various stakeholders for the information. Communication management plan. The communications management plan is a component of the project management plan that describes how project communication will be planned, structured, monitored, and controlled. The plan constrains the following information: stakeholders, communication requirements, information to be communicated, reason for the distribution of the information, time frame and frequency for the distribution of required information, personal responsibility for the communicating the information, personal responsibility for authorizing release of confidential information, person or groups who will receive the information, methods or technology used to convey the information, resource allocated for communication activities, escalation process identifying time frames, method for updating the refining the communication management plan as the project progresses, glossary of common terminology, flow chart of the information flow in the project. Communication concentrates usually derived from a specific legislation or regulation. Managed communication is a process of creating, collecting, distributing, storing, retrieving, and the ultimate disposition of project information in accordance to the communication management plan. The key benefit of this process is that it enables an efficient and effective communications flow between the project stakeholders. As we before mentioned, here is the input and tools and techniques and output. It's a diagram of managed communications. This process goes beyond the distribution of relevant information and seeks to ensure that the information being communicated to the project stakeholders has been appropriately generated as well as received and understood. Techniques and considerations for effective communication management includes sender-receiver models, choice of a media, writing style, meeting management techniques, presentation techniques, facilitation techniques, listening techniques. Project information is management and distributed using a variety of tools, including hard copy documentation management, electronic communication management, electronic project management tools. Performance reporting is an act of collecting and distributing a performance information, including status report, progress measurement, and forecasts. The managed communication process involves activities that are required for information to be created, distributed, received, acknowledged, and understood. Project communications may include, but not are limited to, performance report and deliverable status, schedule progress, and the cost incurred. Project management plan updates. The project management plan provides information on project baselines, communications management, and stakeholder management. Each of these areas may require updates based upon the current performance of the project against a performance measurement baseline (PMB). Sorry, I have to pause. So, organizational process assets updates. The organizational process assets which may be updated include, but not are limited to. It's about stakeholder notifications, project reports, project presentations, project records, feedback from stakeholders, and lessons learned documentation. Control communication. Control communications is a process of monitoring and controlling communications throughout the entire project life cycle to ensure the information needs to the project stakeholders are met. The key benefit of this process is that it ensures an optimal information flow among all communication participants at any moment in time. How before we mentioned, here is the input, tool and techniques, and outputs. It's a diagram of control communication. The project management plan describes how the project will be executed, monitored, controlled, and closed. It provides valuable information for the control communication process, such as but are not limited to stakeholder communication requirements, reason for the contribution of the information, time frame, and frequency for the distribution of required information, individual or group responsible for communication of the information, and the individual or group receiving the information. Issue log. An issue log is used to document and monitor the resolution of issues. It may be used to facilitate communication and ensure a common understanding of issues. A written log documents and helps of monitor who is responsible for resolving specific issues by a target date. Issue resolution addresses obstacles that can block the team from achieving its goals. This information is important to the control communications process as it provides both a repository for what has already happened in a project and a platform for subsequent communications to be delivered. Information management systems. An information management system provides a set of standard tools for the project manager to capture, store, and distribute information to the stakeholders about this project's cost, schedule, process, and performance. Some software packages allow the project manager to consolidate reports from several systems and facilitate report distribution to the project stakeholders. Examples of distribution formats may include a table, reporting, spreadsheets, analysis, and presentations. Graphic capabilities can be used to create visual representations of a project performance information. Meetings. The control communication process requires discussion and dialogue with the project team to determine the most appropriate way to update and communicate the project performance, and to respond to requests from stakeholders for communications. Expert judgment. Expert judgment is often relied upon by the project team to assess the impact of the project communications, need for action or intervention actions that should be taken, responsibility for taking such actions, and the time frame for taking actions. Expert judgment may need to be applied to technical or management details and may be provided by any group or individual with specialized knowledge or training, such as other units within the organization, consultants, stakeholders including customers, for sponsors, professional and technical associations, industry groups, subject matter experts, project management office, PMO. The project manager, in collaboration with the project team, then determines the action required to ensure that the right message is communicated to the right audience at the right time. Change requests. The control communication process often results in the need for adjustment, action, and interventions. As a result, change requests will be generated as an output. These change requests are processed through the perform integrated change control process and may result in new or revised cost estimates, activity sequences, scheduled dates, resources requirements, and analysis of risk response alternatives. Adjustment to the project management plan and documentations. Recommendations of corrective actions that may bring the expected future performance of the project back in line with the project management plan. Recommendations of preventive actions that may reduce the probability of incurring future negative project performance. So it's the end of the lecture number 10. On this lecture we don't have any quizzes, tasks, or so on. It's just a theoretical part of lecture. So thank you, and see you on the next lecture.